Look, man, it boils down to this. Lamar Jackson is an outstanding quarterback, and I think a lot of teams out here would love to have him, but nobody wants this guy for $250 million guaranteed. No way. That's why we're having the conversation we are today. Nobody's willing to give him that money. It's absurd. This is one of the weirdest situations you're ever going to see, so I'm going to show you this graph right here. As you can see right here, Lamar Jackson has the 4th best winning percentage in the history of the NFL for a starting quarterback. So you would think, just like the other two quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, that were recently playing, teams would be fighting over this guy left and right, but that's not the case. And oh yeah, by the way, we're not doing no intro, none of that. We got one topic and one topic only to talk about, and that is Mr. Lamar. And I wanted to talk about this situation because I want to give you an unbiased opinion, and now that I think about it, this is the first time I've ever even talked about Lamar Jackson on my channel. We're making history. And the main reason this is the first time we're talking about him is because there hasn't been too much to say up to this point. In college, he was an absolute beast, won the Heisman Trophy, and for some odd reason, people in the NFL, all the GMs and executives, they didn't believe in him. He falls late first round. I believe it was pick 32 to the Ravens, and yeah, the rest is history. He's been nothing short of fabulous for the Ravens, and he has exceeded expectations ×2. He's a league MVP, he's played out of his mind, and his passing abilities have improved every single year. When I look at Lamar Jackson, unlike a lot of these people out here, I look at a guy who is a good quarterback. Not a good running quarterback, a good quarterback. There's a difference. A good example of that is Justin Fields. He's a good running quarterback, but as a solid overall quarterback, he's not good quite yet. He can get there though. The thing with Lamar Jackson is he's a running quarterback, and I don't care how many yards he passes for. He could pass for 75 touchdowns next year, 10,000 yards, and people are going to still knock him for being a dual threat quarterback. It is what it is. And in the NFL, being a quote-unquote dual threat quarterback, you're not going to get paid as much as these other quarterbacks. Why is that? It's rather simple. There's a major, and I mean a major risk factor. Speaking of teams not wanting to pay a guy like Lamar Jackson, why don't we talk about it? It's the main reason we're making this video. So how do I say this nicely? Nobody wants Lamar Jackson, and that's not according to me. That's according to the media. That's according to everybody else. Although I haven't spoke on this situation, I've been following up with it for not just the past couple of days or couple of weeks. I've been keeping up with this since the middle of the regular season of the NFL. It's interesting. It really is, for the main reason Lamar Jackson does not have an agent. Lamar Jackson represents himself, which I don't agree with, but we'll talk about that in a second. But just like this tweet says, and it had everybody talking, it got over 15 million views. JJ Watt tweeted out, "Why are all these teams so publicly quote-unquote out on Lamar Jackson, an MVP winner in his prime at the most important position in the entire NFL? What am I missing here?" I understand where he's coming from, because when you put it that way and it's cold hard facts, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, I also understand why teams aren't going after him, or they aren't interested. Now, do I believe fully that teams aren't interested in Lamar? No, but I do believe teams are interested in paying him the amount of money that he wants. Check on this reply though. This is my first time even seeing it. I just noticed it got a bunch of likes. Number 1, injury concerns. Number 2, guaranteed money. And number 3, giving up 2 first-round picks while also allocating a huge amount of money in cap and a quarterback. It's a bad move. Once that cap is tied up in your franchise QB, you rely on those premier picks. In this move, you're giving them up. Under that, somebody replied, "Giving up 2 first-round picks for a premier player in the sport is a bargain." So you can see how it's 50-50. It got about the even amount of likes for each comment. And you can see right here, they don't want to pay a fully guaranteed contract, but somebody smart will, and under that, the guy got completely ratioed. Fully guaranteed contract wouldn't be quote-unquote smart, and I do agree. As much as I like Lamar Jackson, I really like him. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's a great quarterback. Not just a good one. I think he's a great quarterback. Paying a dual threat quarterback like Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract, it's risky. I don't think a lot of people understand the logistics that goes into stuff like this. If you fully guarantee Lamar Jackson a contract, that means you're going to sacrifice other positions like a wide receiver, offensive tackle, linebacker, edge rusher, all the important ones. Not only are you sacrificing that, but you're also kind of hoping and banking on the fact that Lamar Jackson does not get hurt. Because if you put all this money into Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, whoever, Joe Burrow, and they get hurt, well, that's it. You're paying your quarterback all this money because you believe he is the chosen one and he can lead you to the Super Bowl, correct? You need him badly because all that money you could have paid a couple of wide receivers or an offensive tackle or guard, whoever, you paid it to the quarterback. Say it with me now, your best ability is availability, period, the end. I don't care if we're talking about football or work or your real life. You can be the hardest worker ever, but if you show up 3 out of 5 days a week and I show up 5 out of 5 days a week, who do you think is going to get fired first? Not me, it's you. The reason the Ravens don't want to pay Lamar Jackson this money and nobody else is currently wanting to pay him this money isn't for one reason, it's for a bunch of reasons. And yet again, I understand why the Ravens don't want to do this and every other team, because it's risky. Sure, it's easy for me and you to say, pay the man, he's an MVP of the league, he deserves it, blah, 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 but we're not cutting a $250 million check. Whenever I talk about situations like this, and I highly advise you to do the same thing, you got to try to put yourself in those positions and shoes. Let's say for the sake of this video, you're the executive or the GM or the owner of the Ravens. Would you, without a shadow of a doubt, guarantee Lamar Jackson $250 million? Even if your answer to that question is yes, you still have to think about it for a while. It's not an immediate yes. Whoa, hold on. I know what all of you are going to bring up. Well, Matt, the Giants, they just gave Daniel Jones $160 million. Matt, Daniel Jones, he's terrible compared to Lamar Jackson. I agree, and I even saw this tweet where they were comparing it, and this is all I've seen the past week or two. Everybody's comparing Lamar Jackson's stats and analytics to other quarterbacks. I'm not going to sit up here and show you any analytics and these nerdy nerd stats because that doesn't matter. There's only one stat that matters in the NFL. You know what that is? Winning. I'm not going to sit up here like these nerds and go, well, if Daniel Jones got $160 million and Lamar Jackson has a way better record and an MVP and 101 pass touchdowns and 24 rushing touchdowns, theoretically speaking, that means Lamar Jackson should get $221 million. I'm not going to do that because the truth of the matter is it didn't matter if Lamar Jackson last year, 2 years ago, had 10,000 passing yards and 100 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. They would still be worried about paying him this large amount of money. You got to quit looking at the stats in this situation. The stats don't matter. Do you think the GM of the Ravens, before he writes this check, is going to look at the stats? No. This is a huge deal. Big contracts like this to franchise quarterbacks, they don't happen overnight. There's a lot of BS that goes on when negotiating this, and then on top of that, Lamar Jackson doesn't even have an agent representing him. That's an entire crap show itself, and if you've ever been in serious negotiations, you know how that works. I mean, heck, when you buy a house, you even have an agent. The fact that Lamar Jackson is trying to negotiate $250 million without an agent is utterly ridiculous. It really is. I'm not trying to say he's not smart or he's not this or he's not that, but I think it would have worked out a little bit better if he had an agent. But hey, I digress. Moving along from that standpoint, even when you negotiate the contract by yourself and with this huge organization, then the team has to sit there and go, okay, well, if we're going to pay him $250 million, what are we going to do at all these other positions? Because if you're paying a guy $250 million, you're not going to be able to have 2 star wide receivers. You're not going to be able to have 2 star edge rushers. Somebody's getting cut. And yet again, I'm going to go back to this. I'm tired of seeing the comparisons. They bring up Daniel Jones. Well, he got paid. And they also bringing up Kyler Murray. That has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it because like this says, Kyler Murray accepted $230 million with $190 guaranteed, and Lamar Jackson turned down 5 years, $290 million with $133 guaranteed. I don't understand this entire conspiracy theory that people are trying to say the Ravens aren't wanting to pay the man. They have offered him $250 million. The fine line where Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can't come to an agreement is the guaranteed money. Which I understand, Lamar Jackson, you want the guaranteed money because, hey, you get hurt next year and can never play again, you're not getting that other $100 million. What's up with the false narrative going around that no NFL team actually wants Lamar Jackson as quarterback? I'm telling you straight up, Lamar Jackson, he's a top 10 quarterback in this league, and a bunch of teams would die to have him, but they're not willing to give him $280 million guaranteed. No way. I'll tell you straight up, Lamar Jackson, I think he's fantastic, but I'm not giving him $250 million guaranteed. No way. I'll give him $190 million guaranteed, maybe even $200, maybe even $205. But I'm not getting above $225. No way. And not only are the Ravens not willing to do that, no other team out there is going to do it either. Why? Because it goes back to this. It's a risk. You're a dual threat quarterback in the NFL. You run the ball a lot compared to the other quarterbacks in the league, and going off of history, running quarterbacks don't last that long. Lamar Jackson will not be playing football when he's 37, 38, or 39. There's no way, not a shot in the world. And also, we haven't even talked about this, but this is a fair point. Why in the world would you guarantee Lamar Jackson $250 million, put all of your eggs in one basket when the Ravens have, what is it, the 8th pick in the NFL draft? Well, heck, You might get Anthony Richardson with the 8th pick. You might get Will Levis. And I don't think Anthony Richardson or Will Levis are on the level of Lamar Jackson, but they're not too far behind. Here's another thing that hurt Lamar Jackson's case, and I'm glad I thought about this. It really looked bad when the Ravens realized, hey, we can win games with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. The Ravens were one bad play away from beating the Bengals with Tyler Huntley. So at that point in time, if you're the Ravens, you're going, well, dang, we got a scrub playing quarterback and we're in the playoffs. Obviously, yes, the Ravens are better with Lamar Jackson. Only a fool thinks they're better with Tyler Huntley, but the point is they could win with a scrub. And I don't mean that literally to Tyler Huntley, but you get what I'm trying to say. If they can win games with Tyler Huntley, I almost want to believe 100% they could win games with an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis. And to go on top of that, if you get a rookie quarterback, you're only going to be paying them what? $5-6 million a year? That's way better than $250 million. We're talking about a $20 million contract compared to $250 million contract. It's not even close. And yet again, it goes back to this. If you get the rookie quarterback, you can then pay other position players. You can pay wide receivers. Oh, you can pay everybody at that point. That's why the Bengals have been so great in the past couple of years, because Burrow's been on that rookie contract. They're not paying him everything. So all the money, basically the free money they got, they can fill in the need at other positions. If the Ravens, the Falcons, the Raiders, everybody that was in contention for Lamar Jackson, the Titans, if they were to give him this huge contract, they'd be sacrificing a lot. Look, man, it boils down to this. Lamar Jackson is an outstanding quarterback, and I think a lot of teams out here would love to have him, but nobody wants this guy for $250 million guaranteed. No way. That's why we're having the conversation we are today. Nobody's willing to give him that money. It's absurd. If he wants to get a deal done, or at least a better deal at that, he needs to get an agent as soon as possible. Because from everything I've seen, him and the Ravens, they are not on the same page. And look at the history of sports. Anytime anybody has represented themselves, it hasn't turned out great. I do want to speak on this. Let me know your thoughts down below, but